you made a big call on the events. I know you said you woke up, you found out Syria had fallen and Assad was on the run, and that this was the kind of event that really begs deeper kind of questions. And you had a very interesting take on that. Would you start there and just share with people what you think happened and why, and sort of what's going on with that and how this is all playing out?
Yeah, sure. So, on Sunday, going on 2 weeks now almost, what are we, 20th December today, Friday. Uh, I was flabbergasted. I woke up and I learned that Syria was no more, that the jihadis took Damascus, Aleppo, everything, that the Syrian army practically didn't put up any resistance almost, and that Bashar al-Assad has fled. And that really shocked me because I didn't see it coming, and I couldn't even understand how that could possibly happen at all. Because Syria's military counted about 270,000 troops, maybe a little bit less than that, but 269 maybe. Um, and these jihadi brigades were like a collection of these groups on pickup trucks going from Idlib on pickup trucks. It's not even tanks or proper armored
Right.
vehicles, and mostly armed with light weapons. Things you can carry or that can fit on the pickup truck. No air cover, just some drones, right? Against the proper army, which has had fully 8 years. So the siege of Aleppo was lifted in December 2016. So the Syrians had fully 8 years to rearm, regroup, uh, dig in, prepare their defenses. They knew that there was danger lurking from Idlib, right? And they knew that there was an invasion being prepared, an incursion. It's
They
not even.
had to know, right? Like people on
No,
the other
no,
side
they
had.
they absolutely did know. They were warned by the Russians, they were warned by the Iranians. That they absolutely knew. And so the fact that that the whole military just in its space of 10 days practically vaporized, to me that doesn't even compute. I don't even understand how that can happen. And then, almost immediately we had all this narrative spinning out of Syria about, oh, the soldiers were paid very poorly and they weren't fed adequately, and the commanders were corrupt and were stealing money, and all these things that, so what
So
exactly?
what? Yeah, you've been a
Because
soldier.
when you go to the military in a country that's at war or at risk of going to war, you've already signed up for a shit sandwich. You signed away your life for nothing.
That's
You
right.
didn't go there because the pay was great, because you had the dental plan or anything. You're under orders. And if the orders come, go to the trenches and defend the positions, then that's what you do. You don't say like,
Stand and die. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. It's not like you say, oh, yeah, I don't think my salary is good enough for this, so I'll just be on my way. So that, well, if the pay of the soldiers or the corruptions of the commanders were any factor at all in this equation, then Ukraine wouldn't have an army to begin with.
Of course.
They wouldn't have any army, right? Yet Ukrainians are there still fighting and dying. And I'm sure that they're not doing it because they're paid so well. Anyhow, so I couldn't understand that. And then, even if you think, okay, so maybe the conditions are really bad, and so maybe, the troops could be on the verge of mutiny, and that can happen. But that wouldn't happen the whole institution vanishing in 10 days' time.
But
That
not
could
in the
happen.
first week of the war, right?
Exactly. And again, remember, 30,000 attackers against 270,000 defenders. The attackers in pickup trucks with light weapons, and the defenders, a proper army, well trained, well equipped, well armed, in dug in defensive positions. It's just like this cannot happen.
No.
So I thought, okay, the only way that I can explain this to myself is that there were orders given, stand down and disband. And and then the next question is why? Who gave those orders and why? And if the whole institution went, not just sporadically a division here, a division there, but the whole thing, then the orders must have come straight from the very top. And then you have to think why. How did that even happen? For what reason? And so, there, what I just explained to you, I'm practically sure about. I can't imagine, like if you see a steel frame building collapse into its footprint, then there's only one explanation for this, and it's
Yeah.
not office fires.
Yeah, right.
And but then why? What the strategy is there? I have to kind of try to connect the dots based on what makes sense and what we know. And to me, the only thing that makes sense is that it was a strategic retreat, that it was probably arranged between the Russians and the Iranians. We've learned a few bits here and there that kind of corroborate uh, what I thought initially, namely that apparently, according to Pepe Escobar, uh, the Russians spent their Spetsnaz, their elite troops, to snatch Syria's top general. I think his name is Mohammed al-Husseini, something like that, and they took him to Russia. He went to Russia with them. So not only Bashar al-Assad, but also Syria's top general. Then, according to Larry Johnson, a whole tank division of Syrian army, led by Bashar al-Assad's brother, went over to Iraq. And then, out of this 270,000 strong army, where are these people? They couldn't have vaporized. They're somewhere. And I have difficulty with the notion that they just went home, because then these jihadis would be after them, and then you risk being beheaded as
Right.
a civilian. So it's safer to stay together and to keep your weapons. And so in these 8 years that the Syrians had to prepare, maybe they adopted more Hezbollah style warfare tactics, or Hamas and Houthis. They all kind of went underground. So maybe they built underground facilities, gave themselves reserve to be able to sustain themselves without regular supplies, and maybe they will opt for guerrilla type attrition warfare, because now these jihadis, instead of being uh, a unified force attacking from Idlib, they were let in, and now they dispersed through all of Syria, and so now they're spread thinly, and they're probably
Right.
easy to pick away.
Times of great political chaos are also times of great investment opportunity. Watching this channel means you're interested in strategies for making and keeping generational wealth. That's why I want to tell you about the guys at Capex Insider. This is probably the premier financial newsletter for independent investors over the next decade. Why? Because Chris McIntosh and Brad McFadden have a take on what's happening and how to profit from it, ideally suited to the massive shift currently underway all across the globe. For example, Chris understood that the green energy nonsense was just that, so he recommended an offshore oil services company that went up almost 1,000% in a year. That's 10 times your money in 12 months. Chris is one of the best guys in the game spotting counter-cyclical, counter-jurisdictional opportunities long before anyone else has a clue. He told readers to buy Argentina long before it became big news and there was a turnaround coming. His Argentina picks would have already delivered you life-changing money, and that's a situation that just keeps getting better and has years to run. You see, the problem with most newsletters is that you seldom get any interaction with the analyst or a chance to ask questions. Capitalist Exploits Insider lets you look over the shoulder of one of the best hedge fund managers in the world with highly entertaining Q&A calls for a fraction of the cost of paying an actual hedge fund manager. Chris and Brad host regular Ask Me Anything calls and timely video updates where you can speak directly with Chris and his team. That's why CapEx Insider is rated 4.8 stars on Trustpilot, which is practically as high as you can get. Best of all, right now, you can test drive CapEx Insider for 7 days for just $1. Click the link below to get all the details and to join Capitalist Exploits Insider. You can thank me later.